Alright, here's hoping everything is going well. Hello. I'm gonna be starting in 10 minutes. For anyone wondering, that's on the screen. That's gonna be our mascot for the day. Um, or the troll that I'm gonna be like using as an example for animation. Probably the best day to have a stream. I didn't know there was gonna be an announcement today, so I got caught by surprise like everyone else here. Um, whether that's a good or a bad thing, but yeah. Um, Funnily enough, I do happen to have the same software as the Hiveswap animators, so I'll be able to actually show you guys how more or less the process is made. No, this is sessions. Uh, oh no, yeah, it's because hold on. I just it's because my voice is very low and I didn't want to like blast you guys with music. Hello. It's very low, like for that reason alone. Just didn't want to blast you guys. Oh no, I'm a League of Legends player, so I'm so sorry, everybody. My apologies. Hello. Hopefully I can answer everyone's questions. Um, in the comment stream, and I can actually tell you guys how this is gonna work out. Um, so I'm gonna be doing animation from scratch, and I'm gonna show you guys more or less the process of how to get any sort of animation done, as long as it's like an idol. And it's just I'm gonna try to simplify it as much as possible, because ultimately animation is a lot of steps of a lot of things combined into one small thing. A lot of it is gonna look pretty basic at the beginning, but then it's gonna amount to something pretty decent, I hope. I hope you're all having a good day while waiting. It's a particular chilly day here. Couple minutes more, then we can just start telling you guys about the wonder of animation, because that's just the life that we're all living in today. I hope you guys SAHcon is doing well. The other panels have been looking amazing. I've been popping in and out. Highways. There is a lot of artists that I want to commission. It's actually kind of crazy, but I'm kind of waiting out a little bit on the end of the day. Also, things are going pretty cool so far. Right. I'd say I should start content revealing for now. The time is start. We should be starting now. So give me a second. Hello, everybody. We're starting now with the animation, how to break down animation session for Hiveswap. Hello, Candlewicke Leonard. This is our sample troll, as I call him. He's gonna be who are we're gonna be using to able to break down animation, and all animate things in the future. For this session, I'm gonna wait a few more minutes until we actually start, just in case. But thank you. Yes, this is our test subject. This is our experiment. This is who is we're gonna squash and stretch until he explodes. It's been a while. Ironically, this is actually part of animation. It's really like being able to keep to grab someone and just squish them or stretch them. Even if it looks a little sinister. Hello, Zuyu. Anyway, I'll give like about 3 minutes before I seriously start, but just for a quick tips that we're gonna touch in the beginning. Um, the things that we're gonna be touching today is the volume, uh, is spatial spatial relativity, which has a lot to do with volume. The construction, we're gonna have the construction, which is basically all of this is all together into one big lesson, and we're gonna have then exaggeration, which is, well, this. Although homestuck animations aren't really that exaggerated, if you look at the sprites, they are very loyal to their own characteristics. But just in case, we're gonna have timing, and that's when we started animating. We're gonna do some timing practices and choices. First, homestuck animation is very skippy, but I'm gonna get into it once we actually go properly. It's most of the animation is done every 2 frames, unless it's stuck in every 2 frames. Thank you. Yes, you could call it. I will say grounded, if it only because it also tends to be a little airy. Oh, hello for the raid. Thank you for the raid. Also, we're gonna talk about animation leading, in which is the object that leads the movement. Which is it the hand that leads the movement? Is it the head that leads the movement? Or is it the body that comes in first, leading the movement? And that's how we're gonna start constructing things. Anyway, this is all we're gonna be touching it today. With a little troll, and this is, I'm gonna keep it simple. You don't need to this program. You don't. I'm using Clipper Studio Paint, but for the video, you don't need Clipper Studio Paint to build on animate any of this. The method that I'm gonna be using is something that I used in other programs such as TV Paint and Adobe Animate, and it works all the same. Animation can be transposed to several things all at once. Anyway, that's one. This is a concept art that I did for our little troll here. Hello. This is a concept art I did for a real troll here. As you can see, you can see the vague outlines of the construction. So, alright. And this is how, from this we're gonna start. Anyway, everybody bring out class. Everybody bring out your notepads. Let's begin. So this is our troll that we're working with. And I'm gonna say it explicitly. You can do this with any troll. Any troll will actually suffice as long as you know what you're doing. So all trolls, if not most trolls on this style, are based on simple cylinders. All of them are shaped like sphere and cylinder, sphere, cylinder. The arms are is just a tube. It's a cylinder. No matter what you look at it, it's a cylinder. The torso, it's a cylinder with a bit of weight, but that's about it. So are the legs, cylinder. And well, the feet are the one that are beans. Don't forget they are beans. That's very, very important. Now this is now we're talking about the construction. So how does this work? Well, any troll that you wanna draw starts from these simple shapes: cylinders, circles, and well, triangles in case of the horse, are in beans. No matter how complex your troll, the real trick to animation is being able to see these shapes and be able to deconstruct them. So what am I talking about? In this case, it's already deconstructed. Like, I made his head is just a sphere. His head is just a sphere. His head is just a sphere. Everything else. But say your troll is a little bit more complicated. Say you have sphere. Say you have a radius horns. How do you animate that on a space? How do you tackle this? Because ultimately it is very hard to do so. At that point is the same function of the horns. Radius horns are a cylinder that is a little twisted. And you're thinking, okay, that's a lot to animate, and you will be right. So what do you do in this case? You grab your sphere, and instead of animating the whole horn frame by frame and dying on the process, you give it a space. You give it a space. So this is your box now. Instead of seeing like, oh god, how am I gonna break this down 50 cylinders? You have this. Your sphere and a box. It's a little bit more than that. But yes, it's literally the basis of all of it. It's just you need to be able to break down things to their main components and find a way to make it easier for you. Instead of animating this whole complex mutation rotating, the trick for this is to make it a cube. So when you animate the character moving, you can always refer back to your original cube, and you will always have the reference, even if the cube moves in perspective. You will be able to look at your original cube and suddenly you have this. Obviously, after a while, everything becomes part of this technique is done a lot for 3D modeling as well, where they get your cube from the front and your cube from the side, and then they model based of that, and that's what basically you're doing animation. You start with a front picture and a side picture if it is a complicated thing, and you start working on it. This is pretty much as before. The head sphere. The good thing about base trolls is that your base troll will always be simple. Your base troll will always be simple. they are very simple things for animation. So no matter what you do, if you can have the most complicated outfit at top of it, but you will always have a very simple base to go off. And if you are lost and you don't know how this works, you can always find a way to answer anything that you find difficult to this and to this pretty basic model. Um, this also applies to clothes. Um, Maybe a little more difficult with baggy clothes, but how do you deal with a hoodie, for example? How do you animate a hoodie? Which is something that might come in handy a little. How do you deal animate with a hoodie? First off, you don't have to do this, and you won't have to do this once you get more experience, but the beginning is figure out where is the body starting on air. The cylinder of the body is right here, and then figure out the joints. Everything is just a simple thing. How do you break down a hoodie, a coat, something like that? Well, this is where we get a little more complex. If you don't want to break the inside of the body because you think, okay, that's a lot of work. How do I break down the outside? How do I don't make all of the insides? I just want to draw the hoodie on its own. Well, that's the same way you break down complex horns or complex shapes. Is you break it down to its more less cool, less complex shape. Yeah, that this is going to start depending on how you draw and how you silhouette your situation. But the way I draw hoodies, they are very square. They are very square. There is not a lot of it gives me a very scarce silhouette. And the way instead of breaking down in cylinders, the way this could be done, you could break it down in cylinders. I am just breaking down the star shape instead, and turning into something that can be used. So this is most of how you wanna do it on your own. If you think it's easier to break down any shape into a whole or into separate junctions, into like arms and legs, it's up to everybody. This can be done with any shapes. Coats. This is a triangle. Hats are also cylinders. anything you want. Because the trick about animation is that you can always animate anything you want. It doesn't matter what. It's just that you wanna. It's how much you wanna put into it. You can animate the most detailed thing, but it's you wanna draw it. That's the trick. Alright. So this is we're gonna take our little boy. And this is some poses that I have previously prepared. It's just pretty simple line of action. And you can see it's all broken down to silhouette. It's most like before, it's all broken down on silhouette, and it's all broken down on cylinders, on perspective, on volume. If any of you guys have any fan trolls you would like to see, I can show you how to break down. I can show you how to break down other shapes besides that. In the meantime, I'm gonna pull something that one of the ones that I made, so I can show you guys how this is. I'm gonna pull up something. Alright, this is an adoptables I had that they are no longer on sale. Alright, how do we I'm gonna show you, how do you break this down? Because you're thinking, okay, how do I know when to break down and what is the correct shape? That is mostly how do you wanna go about animating. Shape 1. Shape 1, circle, triangle for the hair, torso, the normal things that we talk about, cylinder being cylinder, bigger cylinder, hand, bigger cylinder, hand. For things like skirts and dresses, I will recommend do an overlay. This is a cone, and I will recommend animating it separately. Pin, cylinder, triangle, circle, triangle. Well, hourglass basically. Then everything else here is about the same. Cylinder, breakdown, cylinder, breakdown, circle. Animating hair, it can be a little bit more complex. Animating hair goes by a different rule. You can break it down the same way we're breaking down everything else, but hair presents itself in ways that require more volume, even if it's not something that pops up all the time. So you're gonna have your troll, your little sphere, and you're gonna decide, alright, here go the horns. And that's the part where you need to start thinking about, alright, what do we place the hair? So you probably, there's hundreds of tutorials on how to draw hair for trolls. Ultimately, the biggest trick that I can show you is layers. Layer 1 to cover this, and then layer 2 behind. And layer 2 that is basically the sculpt. Now, what does this mean for animation? It means that this little triangle that we have here, because that's all it is, it's just a triangle with a little bit of a shape, it's rooted here. It's rooted on the back here. What does that mean? That everything is rooted to the head. So for animation means that whenever you think about it, it's always gonna be stuck here. It's gonna give us a very particular motion. And the thing about secondary motions, such as hair, is unlike troll horns that no matter what you do, they're not gonna move. They're not floppy. They're stuck. So these don't require this type of thought. For hair, they're always dragging a bit behind. Clothes, hair, things that are flowy, carry weight. They're always dragging a bit behind. And that's about it. And we bring out the little troll boy, and I'm gonna do some outright animation with him, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about how to how we do this properly. If any of you have any suggestion what action you guys want to do, I can always show you how to do that. If not, I'm gonna show you guys how to a simple jump. I can do that. So this is the first step if you have no idea how to. I wanna do a jump. How do I do a jump? Alright. So first step is always, and I mean always, look for a reference. You could always look for other animations, but I will recommend looking for a video if you can. I mean, always, this is very important that you do, no matter what. Because it doesn't matter how good you are in animation, you will always need reference on how to do this. Right, so starting, once you have, how do we get about this? All right. When you think about jumping, which part of the body is doing the leading action? What the leading action, I mean, what are the things that are pushing the body, and what are the things that are guiding the body? In this case, it will be the legs, right? So the legs and the head. So first off, you wanna grab your sphere and just quickly don't think too much about it. Um, quickly have a visual little size reference. Just make sure that it's there, not for any real purpose other than just as reference, because the last thing you wanna do is start drawing and not in like 50 frames in that you lost count of the volume. Now, once that's done, once you have your little like visual reference onto how much you need your two posts, you're gonna need, most of the time it's two poses. It could be more, but and this includes a bit of character acting, because no character is gonna all no character is gonna jump the same. You're gonna be operating with two poses, which is normally what I notice when working types of, well, not working, but when seeing examining SAHcon, examining other animations, is you work with the start pose and the end pose, and it's that this works with animation. So you mark where everything is, and and then you mark their big pose, and that is your ending pose. The start of the action and the end of the action. Or in less uncertain terms, the before the action and the strongest part of the action. Because you could argue that the end of the action is the drawing right before it loops, but also just if you feel like you're always correcting a lot of your art, that's normal. Everybody does it. Don't worry about it. I have like professional animators that, like, a lot of my friends will just throw away entire segments because it doesn't feel right. They will restart again. It's normal. So now you have two images. Right now, how do we begin with connecting this? Well, now here's a tricky part. A lot of them are tricky parts. Now you think about what a deleted action is: the legs and the head for this. So these are the two parts we're gonna be focusing when animating a lot of this. So you have your two poses, and I can always turn off paper skin, because ultimately when you do it on paper you don't have this, so you're supposed to scrub over and over and just look. But you have paper onion skin is easier. But you stop thinking about this as an entire body. Oh god, how I'm gonna do this. And you think as of the ball. How does the ball move? It goes down a little bit. You know, to do a jump. It squishes a little tad your ball. You see, you have a simple animated ball. 1 2 1 2 1 2, and then the head. And this is your head. A small trick I'll always recommend for doing this type of for doing animation and connecting things. Think about this like, and there is a rule called anticipation, and it's very important. If your ball starts movement, and a normal ball will just move up. Anticipation is when the ball moves down and it squishes a little bit. It just holds just enough that once it's up, it looks like it has a lot of momentum and energy. Also remember, the less drawings you have, the faster it's going to go. So the question is, how do you know how many frames do I need? How many drawings do I have to make? That comes with experience, but also the simple thing is, how fast do you want to make it look like? Because all of this is a space between 3 or 2 frames, which is like 2/4 of a millisecond or something of that sort. If you really wanted to make it real quick, you could always one move then closer, so less drawings, and it will just go faster. It's another. You need to just try until you think is the correct timing, but if you want to make it go fast, you might as well. And the same way, there are gathering motions. Every motion, at least most of them, have a gathering motion animation, which is what I will call the previous. They also have a releasing motion animation, which is our little ball, instead of you stopping moving here, moves a little bit further in the air. Because the energy, it's stopping before it starts coming down. I know this is a lot of concepts all at once, but it's complex. So far we've been just animating the head, and it's smooth-ish. Also, do not be afraid to reuse animation previously made, because ultimately, who's gonna tell you to not do that? Um, no one. Just reuse the stuff that you made. And you know your orb, your ball, is coming down. Now what do we talk about? Releasing energy. Um, so it's gonna come down a little bit more than used to the static pose. Gonna look like it's gonna bounce. Alright, so how do we go about the next parts? The torso is easy if you think about it. Um, so what will you do with the torso? What do you do with your cylinder? Because your torso is not leading the movement. The main movement has nothing to do with the torso. At this point in time, your torso can just follow the ball. Your cylinder can just be a secondary passenger to the movement in the ball. This requires a lot more cleanup, but this is just rough. Okay, but, so if the ball goes a little bit upper, your torso follows. Your torso follows. Ball is starting to go down, torso follows. Always make sure that you're doing that you're keeping in mind where everything else is it's going to be. If you keep like looking at the future frames, so you don't do something too crazy, but ultimately the torso isn't that independent. It's just and suddenly you have the head and the torso, your little cylinder, jumping up and down. So how do we go with the legs? So this is a little bit more complex because it requires full-on animation knowledge, but this is your feet are always going to be on the ground. Remember your beans, unless you're doing a like walking motion, your beans are your base. So this is the part where your cylinder it's connected to 2 points of like the hair was connected to 1 point of rotation. Your cylinder here is connected to 2. So it's back to a stitch and squash, slash and a squish. When you press them, your cylinder is gonna do a curve motion, like any knee. But the style is interesting because there is never edges, there is no sharp edges. So if I would recommend to have any visual metaphor, you have like one of those silicone bars that people use to for glue. Get one of those and press the edges with your hand and see how it bends. That's the flexibility that you have to be thinking of when doing this sort of style. It never does edges, it never breaks too much, but it's always just bendy enough. Beans first, because that's point 1 and point 2, and they are more pressing, so check your animation. Now, how do we transition from here to this? Another part of animation, there is another fun thing about animation, even, and that is one base in real life too, based on the brain. The brain will always create shortcuts for what you are doing, what you're working on. So you don't need to draw every single frame, especially for Hiveswap style, it's very skippy. So what do you need for this? The beans are leaving the floor, and then you draw the rest. As you can see, it already is giving you the mental image of the jump without having to draw the rest of the frames. And once you have this type of deal, you draw your wings. This is mostly error with the way I did this number, the second base animation, but can always fix it. We have made it so that the head leads how tall we're gonna go, and the feet lead the motion of the beans. So the feet meet the motion of the legs. This is hierarchy with an animation. Since the head is leading the motion, we're constructing the animation entirety based on the head motion. Other people, depending on what they're doing, when you're doing dancing, what other people do, sometimes they do the hips to begin with. They start by making the hips move, and then the rest of the body follows, with the head being the secondary instead of. It's very important that you identify what is that you're making, what is, so you can make sure that everything else follows properly. So this is your second pose. Again, beans. We are letting the energy out, the same with the head. It's still going up, so it's still moving upwards. And then it reaches the apex. What is the apex? Is the maximum it will go. So your beans, this is the maximum the beans are going to go in a space. Your cylinder is going to go. There is always 2. Your apexes could be your point 1 and 2 that you started with, but normally it's not, because this is the lowest. This is the the point of action before the animation springs out. And this is the apex, how high it's gonna go before it strings back down. But your first pose was this one and this one. So keeping, this is my personal way I do it, other people do it differently, but always keep that in mind, that your pose 1 and 2 could easily be the end goal and the same as not. There is always a little bit of extra movement that you can do, and that's gonna delete this frame, at least for now, making the air time go too slow, at least in my opinion. Because we can, I'm just gonna keep it just for the sake of demonstration. How do we come back down from this? Now instead of, you could, if you want, do it the same way before, which is straight ahead, or you could grab yours before your number 1 and start fixing your blue beans. Go in reverse. You get your little beans. And now connect the legs. You always have a trouble to connecting the legs where you're supposed to go. Remember the first thing about mention is the cylinder. Legs, Hiveswap legs work like this. So yeah, you can always just put this in half. And voila. Oh, this is something fun. This is what I will call artistic liberty. So what is, or what I call smears, which is when an animation doesn't have enough, or when you want other less, or when there is too many, there is no drawings. If the animation is too fast and you need less drawings, and you cannot add more drawings, you just, this is the part where you can allow yourself to be a little out of model. When you can break the cylinder, if you will, instead of making your cylinders, just make them longer. So once It's a so you get a nice little connecting motion. Then again, the best uses of this type of thing is when it's not noticeable. But the least you a person is able to see, the best you're doing it. Up down. Uh, so how do we do the hands now? Is about the same way that we did the feet, which is, remember, your hands are also your little beans. We follow the motion of everything else. At this point, since we follow the motion of the sphere of the head. Always check where you're supposed to end. So we're moving upwards, but these ones tell us we're moving outside as well. So we start making sure that we're gonna end where we're supposed to end. And once we are where we're supposed to end, you keep following the motion of the head, which is up, always up. The head starts coming down, and the hands start coming down. Your beans start coming down. Check at the end where is this supposed to end. And start prepping your beans to get there. Arms, much like the legs, they are connecting to the hands and the shoulders. Don't forget, this is more or less how Hiveswap arms works, to the cylinder of the chest. Half up. So half up. You connect them to your beans. Follow the motions of the beans and the head, but most of the beans at this point. Do not be afraid of things are cropping each other. Do not be afraid of doing that. Check where your end goal is, and start prepping your beans for that. And then you have a jumping animation. Well, more like a hooray animation. And this is your roughs, basically. And it all starts with the movement of the head. Sorry about that. Hold on. I'll leave you with the bean. Apparently something is happening. Alright, so, sorry about that. Alright, so you have your main animation, so how will you compare this to your full character? Normally, when you're animating a character, you already have your design already made. In this case, we already have this. Well, I already have a blue troll, which I'm gonna be using as a guide of how to stylize it. So we're gonna start cleaning it up. And you can clean it up in the same drawing that you used before, but just for this process I'm gonna clean it up in a different layer. You can always use the same one that you used before. Just make drawing out of it, but I'm gonna do it differently. This can be complicated, but always remember that animation, much like anything else, is a learning curve, and if it doesn't come perfect, you can start again, and it's gonna come perfect the next time. So this is a bit of a rough process because you have to start cleaning up your troll. And you need to start making sure that everything's on your model. Now there is something you can do before you do the cleanup, which is go to your base pose. And this is something that I grabbed, especially if it's your first time animating. You go to your main pose, your base boy, the one that you use on the side to keep volume, and you start separating what is solid and what needs animation. But it's an optional step, but I found that restarting it helped me a lot. So what does this mean? So with blue, I'm gonna start drawing the things that are just gonna be drawn exactly and don't require an extra motion. They are not affected by gravity or inertia, such as, I mean, everything is, but how I was mentioning clothes and such, or hair. Most of the design, thankfully, is not affected by extra forces. There are no secondary motions, as they will be called. Now, there are the few things that are affected. So with another color, this hair right here, and this one right here. What does this mean? It means that once you are animating your main body, you're cleaning up, you can easily take this out, and you can always animate them on a separate layer, which I would recommend. Another thing I would recommend is you can you can be a complete you could be a little crazy and animate everything in one layer for your cleanup for your roughs, but you can also do it separately. You can always have everything separate. Back to the orbs. If you have trouble with volume control, which is what I do, don't be afraid to copy paste. You copy your main head, the one that you're gonna use it, and just paste it. And no, there is no people call it cheating. There is no one is gonna tell you. No one in professional animation cares that if you're like copy pasting. It's obviously better that if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. But a simple way that people just get things to move is just by doing this. Um, by just copy pasting. Do try to not rely on it though. Um, like make sure that you know why and where are you copy pasting. I do it because my volume control, despite all my years, isn't the best. Um, so and I will sometimes I like to have like a little like security net on on how things are moving in a space. That's just me though. We're still following the movement of that we mapped before. We're just cleaning up as we go. In these intermediate stages, don't be too afraid of like going out of a model a little bit. And I don't mean like just go crazy, but these are the parts where the body and the movement is stretching. Do not concern yourself with being 100% accurate. You can if you like, but if it's a little bit off, you are doing fine. Um, Especially since we're doing some roughs. Keep following the motion that we described before. Just a slow, ever so, in this case, ever so slowly rising up the everything. You're always like, oh, where do I know where I'm rising up? Consider your sphere and do this. I don't do it anymore, but so this is how much is risen in the space. So this is how you know how to keep it accurate in a space mostly. You keep your planes separated because everything is gonna fall unless it's rotating. In this case, it's not rotating, and even then, it's all gonna keep the same point in space. So the trick to this sort of situation is this is the base of your horn. What is this? A cylinder! That's right! The way to keep a movement straight is with cylinders. I have tricked all of you. This was pro-cylinder propaganda. It was all cylinder movement, baby. And with the horns, is basically it's the same thing. You have these lines. This can also work on rotation if you really feel like it. You have your silk core with your 2 points, or technically 3 points because it's your horn. You connect them two, and there you go. In the middle, you know where it's going to go. Now, you have to consider sometimes, if not most of the time, movement has an arch. You can do it plainly, but an arch normally gives it a little bit of the movement that you need. But yeah, it's all in the cylinders, baby. In the cones, in the cylinders, in the spheres. So yeah, that's how you measure how much in a space you are moving upwards or downwards. Now, do you have to do this every single time? No, not necessarily. With time, the more you do it, the more you will start skipping steps in your brain. That's always the greatest thing when you can just like a speed run through like the speed run through things. Like I said, it is this. It is. I'm gonna rotate it a little bit so I can show you guys how to rotate this a little bit. I'm rotating from the point of the neck, and I am doing this just a little bit. The sphere connected to the neck. It will always rotate base started on that. Not necessary, but good to think about. So what does this mean for objects in like this thing? So it means that they get to go instead of use. It means that That's right, the cylinder gets to be a little bit more diagonal, and you need to start thinking about how things cover themselves on a space. But it is ultimately the same principle as before. That's right, the cylinder. You know the one video about the square hole? That's basically how this works. So, do you know which animated part fits here? That's right, the cylinder. It goes in the cylinder. Uh, I swear I can be funny sometimes. Sometimes. Coming down, you do it from the reverse, so you know what you're doing. Yes, the cylinder. Hiveswap was brought to you by cylinders. You know what? You say that, but like, there is this one post. There is one post from Papers Everywhere where they did what they detailed the how more or less they break down characters. Guess what? It's all cylinders. um, Independently of animation, it's just that's how characters are made. The cylinder hole. Wanna do the long Homestuck style? That's right. The cylinder. It's all cylinders all the way down. It always has been. I'm so sorry. I baited all you with cylinder propaganda. I really didn't mean to do that, but here we are. So as you can see, I'm doing it in reverse because it's just easier as you keep this head, which is the reference, the final post on the other side. You can do it the other way around if you like, but it's just easier to know where you're going. Um, Movement line, as you can see, entrance here, starts here, starts middle here. But this is things you can do on your own if you want. Just keep this line, and you guarantee yourself very smooth movement. I do it on my brain cells are already wired like a like some sort of degenerate. So same with these bits. All of these bits are could all be lined the way the cones are, but Now we have the head, boys. Girls, and everyone else. Don't worry, I'm on everyone else. I don't know. Like I like to pretend that I'm a guy sometimes, but that is like, what is your gender? I don't know. Don't ask me about it. I will tell you later. I feel like it at some point. It's very strange, isn't it? Be just being something. It's very weird having a body when you're just something. Anyway, that's beside the point. We got the head. We so how do we add things like how do we add things like eyes, mouth, or eyebrows? For the purposes of this, and because we're running a little bit of we're running out of time, in that sense, we're gonna treat them like stickers. So how do you treat something like a sticker? You could easily think, oh, they have their own. The sticker, in the sense, is they don't have volume. They have a space, but they don't have volume. So what does that mean? It means that you get to place them on your cylinder, but you don't need to worry about what what space they're occupying. I mean, let's place them on your sphere. You don't need to worry what space they're occupying. You don't need to worry if an object has any sort of volume. You need to you need to worry about this type of thing. And you might want to do it a little bit. You know, just give it the classic. But ultimately, they're just stickers that you paste atop of your drawing. Same with the pupils. Uh, uh, the pupils. No, in the special have are not this. They are not like orbs taking space. They are just a sticker atop of the eye. Um, Same with the eyebrows. The eyebrows don't protruberate outside of the line. They are just pasted atop of it. On the mouse, especially the bean mouse, in general, most mouse are just, unless the style requires for it, they are just pasted on top of, in the middle of. So so thankfully, another perk of them being stickers is that they follow the sphere in placement, but they don't do anything else. You don't need to think about if they are moving correctly in the line. You don't need to think about if there is drag motion. You need to think about if there is inertia, if there is only follow. You just place them on top of it, and then you call it a day. And that is absolutely the perks about this. About this, you can do the same thing with things like the insignias on a troll, mm, or even the horn lines. It's just they are stickers. You don't have to worry about where they are, what else they are occupying on the space. You're safe in that sense. No, there is something. Here's another trick that is used a lot in animation. When a character is going to change motion, and this is how it happens in real life. You can make it so they follow you around with their eyes open. What I like to do, and it helps you a lot as well, to make it look a little bit more real. You close their eyes, and it makes it easier, especially when they're changing positions. It makes it look more natural. Oh, thank you. Um, this also works when you are doing movements that are left to right. So you have your eyes, and then you will your middle frame, and then you will your end frame on the other side will be that. It just helps it to give it gives it a more humane look. It's something what that we do. We blink a lot of people blink just inherently without really knowing it, and it helps to give them um it helps to give them the taste of it. Again, this is an option. You can just simply ignore it. Um, you, you can always just keep the eyes open because it no one is again as I was saying, no one is gonna tell you otherwise. It just makes it look better. And here is the thing about professional animating, and the least revisions you can get, the better you're doing. And it doesn't mean like you can be the best animator in the world and you can still get revisions. So so don't worry much about it. It's really what who you're working with, and what you're trying to aim for. Um, if James Baxter can still be getting revisions for animation, uh, all of us are gonna get them. Um, so I am close to the eyes here because that's what I prefer to do. That's what I like to do. But maybe my producer or my director wants to, hey, I want them to keep eye contact, and then it doesn't matter. Or and here I am working like frame by frame animation, and maybe they're working in twos, and sometimes it doesn't matter any special additives that you're doing. It doesn't gonna transmit well in animation in twos, so you need to be able to adapt. Um, Thankfully, the Hiveswap style in that sense, it, it, it's full of it, it's one animated one by hand, and two, it's truly not it doesn't constrain you. It doesn't constrain you in a way you will say other styles will do. And as far as I'm concerned, the studio itself doesn't constrain you with work. Um, Again, closing the eyes. That's just one thing. You're placing your stickers. Normally, obviously, follow your own crosshairs. I just, like I said before, I don't draw them because I'm just used to it. Mm, uh, yes, you're right about that. It's and that's something from that's a comic theory actually. Funny enough, um, you you know what certain poses and why cylinders are so important. Uh, Say a pose is going um say you're going downwards, how do you want to transmit, easier to transmit the motion of going downwards? You do the shirt like this. You do the hand like this. It's it, it's something that you look at superheroes, and the reason they have a lot of some horizontal lines on the vest and say is because it helps the body motion. It's very interesting. Why cylinders are important, because if you want to accentuate the movement, this line, these lines, where the collar is and where the end of the shirt, the start of the shirt, the end of um, the edge of the shirt as well. Although every single line that reinforces the movement, it's gonna help you. Not that you cannot have lines on the reverse position, but the more you can make it so your lines follow a specific, a specific pattern, it will reinforce the feeling of that movement. And that is why curves cylinder again, but it truly is a matter of, it also helps reinforcing perspective. This is a little squash, but you get the idea. It's this reinforces a perspective. If I were to suddenly it reinforces a movement, this movement, even if you're a static pose. If I were to suddenly do if you do the same thing but this, just for any reason, just change the pose, change the way the brim of the it, one, it breaks the perspective, and two, it divides the movement in two. Does it work? Yes, it looks like this person is floating in space now, if that's what you want. That it has changed the view, the perspective midway. But now, because there are more lines going this way, it also looks like it's going up. There is a break here, because going down, going up, the break is in the neck. So keep that in mind. The more of these lines you can sneakily put in your designs, the more of these lines you can sneakily pre-purpose, is the way that you can make it so it's it looks nicer, if you will. It will make it so that everything you do, it's gonna come with a little bit of punch. Anything that you can do to reinforce the idea that you're trying to transmit, it's the better. Because, for example, yes, having this movement indicates a break here in the neck. But what if you're trying to get pulled by the neck? So now everything you do, you need to reinforce this pull. So this movement that now before, it's perfect, because all you're doing is you are reinforcing this. If this is not what you want, if you wanna just have someone chilling, try to have the most of one perspective. And now the break is on the hips. This is something about interesting too that I will mention. The breaks, or where the curves meet, it's gonna be the movement zone. It's gonna be where things is gonna go where your eye goes. Another trick in drawing, it's your eye follows, and it's gonna spend more time in a surface than anything else. So if I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, where does your eye spend more time? It spends more time on this side. But why? It's because this is fluid. This is just one motion. And that is the same logic of why when you're breaking the position of the arches, it brings your eye to that position, is because it's different. It breaks the pattern, it breaks the object, it separates things. So this is a smooth line, your eye is gonna look here, and here is gonna take more time. The reverse can also be true, where there is too much clutter, and you're just gonna prefer to look at this area because it's less fucking. What does this mean for animation? It just means that it just means that you need to know where you're doing breaks, where you're doing this type of break. It means that if you're doing a movement by the hips, doing this, it's good because this is your break of the curves makes you go further in. That's where your eye is going, and that is your main movement. All right, side segment over. I'll continue with the eyes here, and then for ending, and then for the ending, I'm gonna explain how to do the extra bits of the hair. How does that move on its own? Because I think we're just in time actually. Place your stickers. Check your there's something off with this animation here, but it's frame 5 that is throwing me off of the loop. I think a little bit more than it should, which is pesky. I wish it wasn't doing that. I really wish it was cooperating, but that's not the card that was over. I know what to do. I'm just gonna do what I call. Well, if you look at it less, it's not gonna look that bad. Hi, Mikey. Anyway, too much. That's too much. It's too much. Don't be afraid of just correcting yourself. Like ultimately, it's if you're doing this for your own, you can just ignore it. You can be like, oh, good enough. If you're doing this for someone else, if you're doing it for a company, you're doing a project, you can always like polish it so they don't have to be like, hey, can you polish this for us later? That's annoying. But yeah, hey, good enough, works. The stickers are just easy, man. You just follow them around. You don't even have to look at the end game to know. You just they're using the same place all the time. Um, I'll say right now though, I'm gonna mildly rush. Oh yeah. If you miss anything, I'm gonna put it up in YouTube. Um, the stream itself is gonna be up for like a couple weeks because I'm not a partner, but otherwise it's gonna be up in YouTube. I'm gonna put it in YouTube and I'm gonna give it to the SAHcon moderators, and they're gonna just keep it and be like, hey, they like link it eventually. As they done other panels. Over here, I'll show you guys a trick about mounts. Mounts, like other things, they're also stickers. They're plaster needed for this style. You don't need to do an exact. They all rules applies except for one is that you don't need to have exact like frame by frame how does mouth A goes to mouth B, because that's what make it look overly animated, like old cartoons that have like super mouth animated like H frame, it's enunciated and everything, and that can be a style. But for this type of thing, especially in Hiveswap, where they have the least amount of mouth movement, that sometimes it's just line and mouth. You can use this. You can use skip some frames, like for example, line, 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 a slide open mouth, mouth already open, and mouth full open. It and it works. Make sure that your mouth always follows the rest of the your crosshair and the rest of the body. It just make sure that it follows everything on body. And the last thing I want to show you guys before we end, because this is I, as usual, I tend to think that we're gonna have time to color and everything, but no, we're not gonna have to do it. So that is mostly like on their own. I'm gonna do it on a different layer because it's also easier that way. And we're gonna grab another annoyingly noisy color. You can do this on the same layer. You can do this all together if you want, but I like to do it separately. So we delimited earlier these bits that are like these half moons that are just hanging around, and I'm gonna show you how do you think of that movement. First off, since They are basically floating bits. How do we address this movement? This one, the one on the far left, has 1 point of where it's attaching, and the other one has 2 points that is attaching. This and this little diagonal. So how do we go about this? You go on to your number 2, your second post. So what is happening? No, what is, you think about it? Okay, what is happening? You're going upwards. When you're going upwards, things that are attached to you but are still have weight go down. So what should happen is this goes down, and this goes a little down. Don't remember that it's still like attached to this type of thing, so it shouldn't go down too much. Now, instead of just going directly with it, we need to follow. We are following the animation a little bit after. So what does that mean? It means that because first we're going down, what does it mean when it goes? You go down, you go up. So this goes upwards a little bit, just a little bit. Same position, and it just, you're making it go upwards, just tiny bit. Your points are always going a little bit upwards. And now this is the part where it gets a little tricky. It's what I call the extra animation, and the reason I did a different layer is because now this is still a static. This is still, your main animation is still holding. However, you can decide if you would like make it a pause. More or less in the same place that it was before, just a little bit, and just let it go like this. Same with this. Just you can let it go back to its normal stage, the stage of stasis, or the stage of normal movement. And then now it's going up, and you follow that. What this is gonna do, it's gonna make it so, one, it looks like independent movement. Two, it makes it a little bit more light because it's an extra movement. It's whatever you call secondary movement in animation. And it also reinforces the action of your character to top it all off. Oh, let's point this. You want to keep the space in mind as well. You can do it the same way before. You connect this, and you make a line. And you want to keep perfectly like that, perfectly sized. However, you can, in movements, you can just ignore it at the same time. You can take more liberties because it's all movement. So by this point, the movement is stopping. So I'm gonna start to pull the thing up because of the weight. You pull it up, and you give it a little bit of extra movement. To finish the motion. Everything else is already finished motion, but you can finish the motion with these extra pieces of hair, these extra pieces of cloth sometimes. It's going down, and when everything goes down, you go up. Once more. be sure to check where your end goal is, so you're not doing extra for no reason. Um, oh wait, no. I forgot to set up the one for the real frame for the onion skin layer. My bad. Anyway, so. If anything else, these extra pieces of hair cloth are your motion connectors. They basically polish out the full motion, especially for idols, in which idols always look like you're always moving. It always looks you're always animating. It always looks like you're always it goes back and forth. And these extra animation, these extra pieces that just follow motion based on what you already have, help a lot on how to help a lot on connecting that in connecting tissue. And that's now we got main animation, main animation in that sense. And it was all beans and cylinders. Mm. I think that's gonna be it for now. Thank you for coming, everybody. Um, it was pretty cool. If you have any questions, do let me know right now. I'll try to show me. We have like 10 minutes to go, but that's about it. Um, if if you have any queries before I start closing up. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for being a great audience. If you have any questions besides the stream, you let me know, and I will try to do my best to help. I'll be archiving these. It's gonna be uploaded to YouTube. Yes, I'm gonna be uploading it to YouTube. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna upload it on YouTube, and I'm gonna give it to the moderators. So once it's uploaded, they can link it on the archive on the second stream, on the second archive panel. I think they did that last year. Hopefully, they will do it this year. I don't see why not. And here is a tip. Here, while we going, here is a tip for if you have Clip Studio Paint, which I would recommend. If you're gonna do animation line art, the I wholeheartedly, with the whole my heart, recommend that you do that you use vector lines. Good lord, use vector lines. You have no idea the time it's gonna save you. Because especially because Hiveswap lines are 2 pixels thin. They're like, or they're 4 pixels, but they're like, they are thin, they are nanometric, there is nothing there. And if you know about vector lines, is that you can do my favorite thing, which is my favorite thing for animating, which is this. And it just automatically erases things. Oh my god, you don't have to think anymore. Also, another thing I recommend that you get, and that is something for the Clip Studio library. I don't remember the name, but they're like little poops. They're like autofill tools. Especially for animation. They use autofill your stuff like that. It just very quickly. Yes, use vectors for Hiveswap animation. It's just simple. It's easier. Especially because this is wonky thing here. Like you can do this. You can do my favorite thing, which is called you connect the vector lines or something. You can do this thing called simplify vector lines, and it's a little wonky, but nothing that some fixing can do. You can give yourself the most perfect curvatures if you like. It's there you go. You got a perfect eye. It's amazing. Oh, hey, Zoo. You came in when I'm closing in. We're closing the animation. I have like 5 minutes before I. Hi. Hi, guys. Yeah, I have 5 minutes before I close. Uh, oop. Yeah. Okay, guys. I'm finishing the little class that I got going here. About how to be a homestuck. Oh yeah. Get vectored. Look at this. It's perfect. Vector lines are your best friend when you are doing animation in Clip Studio. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Vector lines are the best thing out there. They will do the work for you 90% of the time. Oh, by the way, if anybody tells you anything about stabilization, you stabilize as much as you need it to stabilize. Who cares? That's all I'm gonna say. Especially if you're trying to do clean, you don't depend on it, but it's gonna save you so much time. Oh my god, what I'm gonna do with all of this? Yeah. God bless. And when I'm closing this. Oh, I already did the entire thing. We already drew a million times movie. Don't worry about it. Already did the show. Entire lesson. Thanks guys for coming. I'm closing out right now. Yes, extra bits of hair are my favorite thing. That they are not connected to the main body hair, but they're just they do whatever they want. That's my favorite thing ever. Well, not whatever they want. They follow motion. Uh, it's my favorite thing to draw. Eating a hamburger. See, that's gonna take me another 2 hours. Why would you do that? Anyway, I'm gonna call it a day. I hope you guys, everybody enjoys the con. Yeah, this was a panel for a convention. It's called SAHcon. That is not a joke. So if you guys wanna go and watch the rest of the panels and buy some merch, it's a convention of mine. Um, I'm gonna write it on the chat so you know. SAHcon. Search for SAHcon 2022. You guys, it's fun. There is a lot of great artists and a lot of great panels. It's Homestuck, but still very cool. I have merch. A lot of people have merch. I'll recommend. There is. It's not only Homestuck only. You can request OCs and anything you like. Thank you for coming. I'll see you all in the convention. Bye.